At 6:47 on a Friday morning, the payroll system at a freight company in Columbus, Ohio, stopped working. 1,100 truck drivers across 9 states were about to not get paid. The IT team pulled up the master password list and started logging into everything. And here's the strange part, the part that turned a bad morning into a catastrophe. The passwords were all there, neatly typed, properly handed over, and half of them no longer worked. The state tax portal wanted a password that had expired. The recovery email on file belonged to an account the company itself had deleted. And the security question on the screen, "What was the name of your first pet?" was asking about a pet that belonged to a woman named Diane Keller, the woman they had fired 3 weeks earlier. This is the story of what a company learns when it discovers that a password is not a piece of paper. It's a person. And it's the story of a kind of power that doesn't shout and doesn't threaten, because it simply waits for the phone to ring. To understand what happened at Hartwell Freight, you have to understand Diane Keller. Diane was 54 years old. She lived in Grove City, a suburb south of Columbus, in the same brick ranch house she and her late husband bought in 1998. 2 grown kids, a dog named Biscuit, remember Biscuit, he matters later, a garden she never quite had time for. For 12 years, her job title at Hartwell was Payroll and Systems Administrator. But her real job, the job that never appeared on any org chart, was holding the company together. Hartwell Freight was a mid-sized trucking company, 1,100 drivers, 200 office staff, the kind of business that looks simple from the outside and is anything but. Fuel tax filings across 9 states, Department of Transportation compliance reports, union pay scales, and underneath all of it, a payroll system installed in 2004. A system so old that the company that built it no longer existed. And around that system, over 12 years, something had quietly grown. 31 different logins, the payroll core, the state tax portals, 9 of them, 1 per state, each with its own password rules. The vendor support account, the bank file transfer system, the DOT filing portal. Diane managed all of it. Not because anyone assigned it to her, because someone had to, and she was the one who was there at 6:30 every morning when things needed to work by 8. She kept it organized the way careful people do, a proper password vault for the credentials, and a thick blue binder for everything the vault couldn't hold. Which login opened which door, which portal demanded a new password every 90 days, which site would lock you out after 2 wrong tries, and the answers to security questions she'd set up back in 2013 when nobody else wanted the job. She wasn't hoarding any of this. That's important. Twice, in 2019 and again in 2022, Diane formally asked her managers for time and budget to document the systems properly and cross-train a backup. She had the emails. Both times, the answer was the same. Great idea, Diane. Maybe next quarter. Next quarter never came. Around the office, Diane was furniture. Pleasant, reliable furniture. She got a sheet cake on her 10-year anniversary. Someone spelled her name, Diane, on it. And every other Friday, 1,100 families got paid correctly, on time, without a single person wondering how. That's the thing about competence. When it's perfect, it's invisible. And here's the first thing this story reveals about human behavior. Psychologists sometimes call it the visibility bias. We don't reward the most valuable work. We reward the most observable work. The person who talks in meetings gets seen. The person who prevents disasters gets forgotten, because prevented disasters are invisible. Nothing happened. And nothing happened doesn't show up on a performance review. Remember that. Because a man was about to walk into Hartwell Freight who had built his entire career on being observable. In March, Hartwell's owners brought in a new director of operations. His name was Brett Callahan, 38 years old, MBA, 6 years at a consulting firm, a LinkedIn profile that used the word transformation 11 times. To be fair to Brett, and this story will be fair to Brett, he was given a real mandate. Margins were thin. Fuel costs were up. The owners wanted the company modernized and cost down. Brett wasn't a villain. He was something more common. A man who believed that anything he didn't understand must not be important. In his first month, Brett toured every department. When he got to Diane's corner, a desk, 2 monitors, a filing cabinet, and the blue binder, the meeting lasted 9 minutes. He asked what she did. She started to explain the state tax portals. He looked at his phone. He asked why payroll needed a full-time person when software does this now. She started to explain the 90-day password rotations across 31 systems. He nodded before she finished. That night, Brett added a line to a spreadsheet. Under a column labeled Redundancy Candidates, he typed, Keller D, Payroll Admin, Legacy Role, Automatable. The layoffs came in June. 14 people. Diane was called into a conference room at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. An HR manager she'd never met. A folder with her name on it. 2 weeks of severance per year of service. Diane asked one question, not about the money. Who's going to manage the credentials? The HR manager smiled the way people smile when they don't understand a question. The transition team has it covered. That afternoon, Diane put an offer in writing. She would stay 30 days, cross-train replacements, walk them through every login, every rotation schedule, every recovery procedure. A professional handover. Brett declined. His email took one line. Appreciate the offer. The vendor will support the transition. Best of luck, Diane. So, on her last day, Diane did everything right. This matters. Remember every detail. She exported the full password vault and delivered it to IT through the official process. 31 logins, all current as of that day. She left the blue binder on her desk with a sticky note, for whoever needs this. She turned in her badge, and at 4:50 p.m., per standard procedure, IT deactivated her company email account. Nobody in that building understood what had just happened. 3 quiet, routine, correct-looking actions had set a time bomb. A password list that would start expiring, system by system, on its 90-day clocks. Recovery emails across a dozen portals, all pointing to an address that no longer existed. And security questions, set in 2013, whose answers now lived in exactly one place on Earth. The memory of the woman being escorted to the parking lot by a security guard, carrying a thermos, after 12 years, like a shoplifter. She sat in her car for a while. She didn't cry. What she felt was stranger than sadness. The vertigo of discovering that a place you gave a third of your life to was never keeping score at all. Here's the second pattern, the one that destroyed Hartwell's summer. It's called tacit knowledge, the knowledge experts carry that has never been written down and mostly can't be. Researchers who study organizations estimate that most critical operational knowledge lives in people's heads, not in documents. A password list is explicit knowledge. You can print it. Knowing which password opens which door, when each one expires, and what you named your first pet in 2013, that's tacit. Brett cut a $62,000 salary and received a beautifully typed list. He thought the list was the knowledge. It was only the shadow of it. Now, what did Diane do? Here's what she didn't do. She didn't post about Hartwell online. She didn't change a single password on her way out. Everything she handed over was accurate to the minute. She never touched a system after her badge went dark. Her hands were completely, provably clean. Remember that, because it's the reason the ending of this story works. What she did was grieve for about 2 weeks. Real grief, the kind with pajamas and bad television. Anyone who tells you a layoff at 54 doesn't scare you is lying. Then, on a Monday morning, she got up at 6:30 out of habit, made coffee, and had a thought that changed everything. If Hartwell was running on 12 years of my knowledge, how many other companies are running on someone's Diane? The answer, it turned out, was most of them. She called a former colleague, Patricia, now at a regional accounting firm. Patricia laughed for 10 full seconds when she heard Hartwell had let Diane go. Then she stopped laughing and said the 11 words that started Diane's second career. Our clients would pay serious money for someone who speaks legacy payroll. By late July, Diane was an independent consultant. Her first contract, walking a Dayton manufacturer through a payroll conversion, paid more per month than Hartwell paid per quarter. She wasn't an overnight success. She undercharged her first client. She had to learn invoicing and estimated taxes and how to say her hourly rate out loud without flinching. The rate was $165 an hour. It felt absurd to her. It was not absurd. It was the market price of exactly what Brett Callahan had decided was worthless. Meanwhile, back at Hartwell, the clocks were ticking. In July, during an office cleanup week, someone threw out a thick blue binder nobody recognized. In August, the first 90-day rotation came due on the Ohio tax portal and expired quietly because the reminder emails were going to a deactivated address. A DOT filing went out with errors, triggering a follow-up review. And Brett? Brett was presenting slides to the owners, showing $410,000 in annualized savings from the June restructuring. The slides were beautiful. By August, they were also fiction. Which brings us back to that Friday morning in September. 6:47 a.m. The payroll run fails. The state tax module, the one with the Tuesday noon quirk nobody knew anymore, corrupts the whole cycle. IT opens the master password list, and door after door refuses to open. Expired credentials. 2 failed attempts, then lockouts. Reset link sent to an email address the company deleted in June. And on the biggest portal of all, one final barrier, blinking patiently. What was the name of your first pet? 1,100 drivers. Payday in under 24 hours. Union penalty clauses starting at midnight. The vendor billed 4 hours and fixed nothing. They were reading a manual that had been wrong since 2011. At 4:30 p.m., in a conference room, Hartwell's CFO, a careful man named Ray, who had opposed the June layoffs and been overruled, looked across the table at Brett Callahan and said, "Call her." The call came at 5:12. Diane was in her garden. She let it ring twice. And here's the part people misremember when they retell this story. She didn't laugh. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't make a speech. She listened to a very stressed HR director describe the lockouts, and then she said, "I can help. I'm an independent consultant now. My rate is $165 an hour. Emergency work is a 20-hour minimum, and I'll need a signed agreement before I access anything. I can start tonight." Then, "Let me call you back." They called back in 19 minutes. Contract signed by 7. And then, at her kitchen table, on a company laptop they couriered to her house, with Biscuit asleep on her feet, Diane began opening doors. The recovery answers, from memory. First pet, Biscuit's predecessor, a cat named Meatloaf, 2013. The rotation schedule, from memory. The Tuesday noon rule, from memory. Account recovery calls to 2 state agencies Monday morning, using the direct numbers she still knew by heart. It took her 11 hours of work across the weekend to untangle what 3 weeks of vendor support couldn't. The drivers were paid Monday. The union penalties were missed by hours. Her invoice, the emergency weekend plus the 6-week stabilization contract Hartwell practically begged her to take, came to a little over $58,000. Almost exactly her old annual salary. For 7 weeks. On her schedule. At her kitchen table. With her dog. And the karma in this story never needed Diane to lift a finger, because organizations deliver their own consequences. The owners ordered a review of the June restructuring. It found that of the $410,000 in projected savings, more than $500,000 had already gone out the door. Vendor fees, audit response, penalty exposure, emergency consulting. In November, Brett Callahan and Hartwell parted ways to pursue new opportunities. His LinkedIn now says he's a transformation consultant. Diane still does contract work for Hartwell twice a year at quarter end. They pay her rate. And they spell her name right now. So what actually happened here? A company thought it owned its passwords because it owned a list. But a password isn't a piece of paper. It's a living thing. It expires. It rotates. It hides behind a question about a cat named Meatloaf. and it lives inside a person. Hartwell didn't lose a payroll administrator. It lost the only human being who could open its own doors. And then it paid 10 times over to rent her back. The most powerful sentence in this story isn't a comeback line. It's the quiet one, said in a garden on a Friday evening, to the company that escorted her past her own desk. "I can help. Here's my rate." Not anger, not sabotage. She handed over everything, and it still wasn't enough, because she was the thing they needed. Just the market value of being underestimated, stated politely, and paid in full. If you've ever been the person who was there at 6:30, the one whose work only got noticed when it stopped, this story was always about you. Now I want your verdict. Diane took the contract and rescued the company that humiliated her, at her price. Some people call that the perfect quiet victory. Others say she should have let it ring, and no invoice buys back that walk to the parking lot. What would you have done? Take the call or let it ring? Tell me in the comments. And if you were with Diane in that garden at 5:12 p.m., you'll want next week's case. The business partner who emptied the accounts and forgot who owned the patent. Betrayal Blueprint. New episodes every week.